Hello and welcome to yet one more Python tutorial. This lesson we're going completely off the chart and we're gonna do something entirely different. There's an old TV show you've probably never heard of called Monty Python's Flying Circus, and every once in a while in that show they'd have to segue awkwardly to something entirely different, and an announcer would say, "And now for something entirely different." And so that's the beginning of this lesson. We're gonna do something entirely different. We're gonna talk about graphics this week and get just a little bit into how graphics work in computer programming. And so we've been talking about variables and conditional branches and loops and arrays and having lots of fun there. Well, now we're going to apply all that stuff to graphics, and Python has a module that is super helpful for this. So before you just start a new Python, don't do that. We're not going to create a new Python because we actually have to create a special REPL Python. So go to your REPL, go to REPL.it. Been following along with these tutorials, you should know that by now. And you want to see all languages, and you want to type in this search bar up here turtle, and that will give you a special module of Python called Turtle that was designed and programmed to teach young beginning computer programmers like you how to use graphics and vectors. And so that's what you want to click. Once again, you want to name it with your name probably and call this one Turtle. So I'm Kevin Lambert. This is Turtle. We're just going to create this REPL, and it's going to look exactly like any Python screen would look. We have a blank line here, but the difference is it has REPL enabled. And so let's talk a little bit about modules. I'm going to talk a little bit about graphics. Modules are pieces of programs, or well, really they're entire programs that other people have programmed for you to import into your programs to save you the work of programming it yourself. Python has some really good modules. It has some really deep, they call them libraries. It has some awesome libraries, and Turtle is one of those awesome modules that just makes things really fun and helpful so that you don't have to do the hard work programming everything yourself. You can just import it into your file. And so that's the first thing you're going to need. You're just going to type the word import, and then you're going to write turtle. And that is basically telling your file, your program, to import everything in this other program over to my program. So Turtle is another program. It exists somewhere else on the interwebs, and we are saying we want to import everything in Turtle, all the commands, all the variables, all the conditional branches, all the loops, all the functions and classes and objects. We want to import that right over here into our file, and that will import Turtle over. The next thing then we want to do is set up our Turtle. But before we do that, let me talk a little bit about computer graphics. There are two types of graphics in computers. One is a basic image file that you take on your phone and email over. Maybe you scan it in using a scanner, and files have different formats. These are your JPEGs, your PNGs. Apple has a new one called HEIF, which I don't know much about at all. It's high something image file. I can't remember what the E stands for. So that's Apple's one. You have GIFs, of course, which are moving graphics. You can even get into MP4s if you want with movie files. So that's just an image. Later on in this class, we're going to learn how to import images over as sort of a background in HTML. Obviously, we do that for web pages. But there's another type of graphics that's used in computer programming, and that's called vectors. Vectors are when you get the computer to draw your picture for you. That is a vector. It's when it is not an image. It's not something that you draw out and scan in, or you take on your phone, a photograph that you import in. It is an actual computer program that draws a picture. For those of you who play video games, very early video games actually used JPEGs, and they alternated to create the animation, just like any animation. But now video games actually use vectors. Vectors are commands that tell the computer what pixels to fill in and what color to fill them in. I just recently played a game called Final Fantasy 15, and one of the huge things that they boasted about that game is the characters of that game, the avatars, had something like 15,000 vectors or polygons just for their hair, which meant every time the character moved forward, they bounced the hair like it would bounce like when you're running, and they would have 15,000 polygons that vectors that would draw, and polygons are just shapes that would bounce up and down and change all around. Isn't that crazy? So most video games now are actually drawn with vectors, and the computer calculates all those things. And Turtle is a module that teaches you how to do vectors. And vectors is all about pixels and angles. That's all it is. It's saying fill in this many pixels and then move this many angle and go this direction and draw this shape. And so that's how it works. So as I said before I went down the line about what vectors are, if you don't understand that, that's okay. You will by the end of this. Let's set up our turtle. You can name your turtle whatever you want. I'm going to name him Pete. And how you set them up is you say Pete.turtle, and then you need parentheses. In a few weeks, you're gonna learn why you need parentheses. So now, when we run, we should see an arrow appear in the middle of our screen. It didn't like Pete for some reason. You know what? That's because it's actually Pete equals turtle. Yep, it's actually Pete equals turtle. My bad, right there. So yep, now we have a blank thing. Actually, he didn't appear in the middle. I thought he would. Well, let's now make him appear. So we're going to make him appear by having him move. And how we move him is we just say Pete.forward and type in some pixels. I'm going to have him move forward 100 pixels. You can have him move forward 300 pixels, 400 pixels, 10 pixels. So there's 100. Let me show you 10. There's 10. Not very many, is it? 50 is a good amount. There you go. And then we're going to angle him. So we're going to say Pete dot left. We're going to turn him left. And now it's not pixels. Now what goes in the parentheses is an angle. And so let's angle him 45 degrees. So yep, you see he moves forward 50 and then he angles 45. And then we're going to move him forward again 50. And then he's going to turn left 45 degrees again. And then he's going to go forward 50 again. If you're following along at home, you can pause this. And we should be pretty well on our way to drawing a hexagon. Look at that. So we could actually draw, actually, I think it would be an octagon there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be a decagon, wouldn't it? So yeah, we could draw a decagon that way. Remember, all shapes are just angles and lines, right? And so when you draw polygons using vectors, you're just drawing shapes. You're just drawing lines. So yeah. So let's go ahead and I'm going to erase this and let's just draw a basic square. In fact, pause this video and see if you can't figure out how to draw a square. So if you pause, I don't know if you figured it out, but he's going to go forward 50 and then he's going to turn what? Left 90. Then he's going to go forward 50 and then he's going to turn left 90. And I think we have 4 there. Nope, we only have 3, so we need to do 1 more. And there we go. And that should draw a nice little square there. There you go. Isn't that cool? So we have a nice little square there. Yeah, so now Turtle has some other cool features. We can actually fill it in. So now we've named our turtle up here. Once again, make sure you use good spacing so you can see where the pieces of your program are. Anybody grading this like me can see where the pieces are. Up here, we're going to change Pete's color, and it's Pete.color, and we actually use what's called Rgb encoding. So the first 0 is how much red we want. So RGB, R stands for red, G stands for green, B stands for blue. And so we have Pete's color here, and the first number is how much red. So we're going to turn Pete entirely red, and we're going to say no green, no blue. And so that's called RGB encoding, and it basically tells each pixel how much white light to take away from the pixel. So because pixels are white light, you see all this white space down here. So we're actually saying add in this much red, add in this much green, add in this much blue. So that's how RGB encoding works. And now he is slightly red. If we want him to be more red, we can bump that number up to 300. And now it's pure red. See that? So we can change the color of Pete that way. and make him a different color. If we wanted to, we could change his color between every line here. So now let's make him, that should turn him green. Yep. And then he stays green. And then if we wanted to, the next line, we could turn him blue. Yep. And then we could make him black for the next one. Once again, how do you think, before I fill it in, how do you think we're going to turn him black? Any guesses? Well, we're just going to say 1, 1, 1, and we're going to have the same percentage of black. There you go, turned in black. And so we just 1, 1, 1 means all black, which is kind of cool. So if it was 300, 300, 300, I think it would just be blacker, but let's go ahead and check that out on that last line. So there we go. Oh, I don't know what happened. Did we just turn, we may have just turned him white. Interesting. So 0, 0, 0 is actually black. So 1 just made it slightly, yeah, there we go. Yeah. So anyway, 0, 0, 0, sorry, the 300, 300, 300 is white. That's what threw that off. 0, 0, 0 is black. So yeah, all kinds of fun things we can do there. The next thing we can do, if you go to the very bottom of your program, is we can lift Pete up just like we would be lifting a pen up off a page. So we'll just say Pete up. And then we're going to rotate him. We're going to go right 90 degrees. So we're going to rotate him back right 90. Actually, yeah, we'll rotate him right just so you can see it. We could also just delete this and have him go forward. And then he's going to move forward. Remember, it's always his forward, not your forward on the page. He's going to move forward. We'll move him forward 50 pixels. And then we can say put the pen down. And then we can say Pete dot forward 50. And now it will draw a box, and you'll see Pete will move, but see how he moved and we have a line there? That's how you use up and down. Another way, I guess, of doing it is we could have changed his color to all white, 300, 300, 300, and then there would be a white line there that nobody would even know existed except for you who programmed this. So, but that's another helpful tool. And one more thing before we get into the assignment for the week, another super helpful thing is we can actually tell Pete to fill in his shape. And so how we do is we say begin fill. And once again, you need parentheses. And so now when we run it, it'll fill in. Oh, actually, it didn't fill in. Interesting. I wonder, I think that's probably because we use different colors. So I'm going to delete the colors out of this. And then he'll probably fill in because I got him to fill in earlier. No, he still didn't fill in now, did he? Maybe because we didn't say end fill. I think I got him to fill in earlier, so I think because we didn't say end fill. You have to say end fill maybe to complete it. Yep, there we go. So yeah, you need begin fill and you need end fill is what you need to do. And that'll fill in the object and make it whatever color Pete was. So yeah, so that's the basics, some very basic things there. Now, let's do the assignment. The assignment was, if you're just watching this online for fun, then you've probably learned what you need to learn. You can turn this off. But if you're in one of my classes, here was the assignment that went along with this tutorial, is I wanted you to draw a box, a circle, a rectangle, and I think an octagon or another shape of your choosing. So, and we're actually going to use loops to do this. And so if you haven't watched the loop tutorial, go back and watch the loop tutorial because it's actually easier to do it with loops. So, once again, we're going to import turtle. That's going to be our very first. At the very top of every computer program, you should have your imports and then name your variables. So we have our import here, and we just have one variable. His name's Pete, and he's a turtle. And so Pete's our variable, and Pete is our turtle. And so we have him. And now we're just going to command Pete around. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, obviously, we're going to name Pete's color, right? So Pete.color is going to start out whatever color you want to start out at, but I'm going to start out at red again. So Pete.color, and then we're going to just have him go. But we're actually going to use a loop. This gives me a chance to do for loops. So we could type all that code to draw another red square that you saw me type earlier. We don't want to do that, right? And so I would much rather just write 3 lines of code. So here's our 3 lines of code. Remember to use good spacing here too, so you can keep track of where your code is. For x in range 0, And then how many sides does a square have? Because your second number should be the sides of the square. So a square has 4 sides. So we're going to say 4x in range, 0 to 4. Don't forget your colon, right? So 4 times, we're going to want this loop to repeat. And Pete's going to go forward. I'm going to do 75. And then he's going to turn left 90 degrees. And that's going to draw us a nice little black box there. Yep, once again, if I want him red, it needs to be 300. So notice he's not filled in yet. We want to fill him in. So once again, up here, we want to say Pete dot begin filling, right? And then actually to space it out better, it'd probably be good. So you can see it like this. And then at the end, we learned this earlier, we want to say end fill, right? So now he's going to draw us a 75 pixel box. So there we go. Okay, the next thing was a circle. Now, a circle's tricky, so pay attention to this. So once again, make sure you have good spacing here. We want Pete's pen to be up. We'll pull the pen up. We want to move 75 pixels forward, but we also want to move maybe 100 past that. So Pete's going to go forward maybe 175 pixels. I'll play it so you can see why. And then Pete's going to go down. And then we're going to change Pete's color because that was the assignment. And now we're going to change him to green. So there we go. Now watch what happens when I run it. This is why we needed it. Needed him to go the pen up and move forward. Is because if we didn't move forward, it would draw the circle right here. We want the circle to be drawn completely separate from the box. Now to draw a circle, once again, we want to begin fill. Now, we want to use a loop again, but I want you to think, how many sides does a circle have? Think back to math class. How many sides does a circle have? Yeah, it has 0. But actually in vector math, it actually has 360 sides because there are 360 degrees in a circle. So we want to say 0, 360, and then our loop is going to be for 360 times, we want Pete to go forward 1, and then we want Pete to turn left 1. You want forward 1 pixel, left 1 pixel, and it will draw a really awesome circle for us. And then, of course, at the very end, we want to end fill. Make sure you're using good indenting here because the end fill is not part of the loop. We don't want the loop to end the fill at 360 times. Now watch. Oh, it doesn't like line 19 because I forgot my colon. Remember earlier I told you don't forget the colon. So there's our bread square. And here's our green circle. Draws it really slowly. By the way, there are functions that speed them up and slow them down. If you want to look into those, you can go to W3 Schools. And there's our green circle. Isn't that cool? So he's basically going 1 pixel over, 1 pixel up, and it draws this circle. If you were to zoom way in on it, the circle would look really pixelated, right? That's where we get the word pixelated. But because we're zoomed out, it looks like a circle. So yeah, that's our circle. So now we're going to do the rectangle, pretty easy. Once again, we're going to move Pete up, and this is where copying and pasting helps. We're going to copy lines 13 through 16. Down here, we're going to paste them. But we want to start, I want to put my rectangle below him. And so Pete's going to move up, but then he's going to turn right 90 degrees, forward 175 pixels. So he's going to go down 175. And then the pen's going to go down, and we're going to change the color again to, that should turn it to blue, right? So once again, between our loops, we have another things that Pete's doing. He's going to turn right, go down 175 degrees, and then he's going to turn blue. So now I'm going to draw it again just so I can show you where Pete's going to end up as he begins to draw our friend the rectangle. Here we go. Man, he draws that slow, doesn't he? I should have done the circle S. So he's going to end up all the way down here. See that? So now we're going to write another loop. So once again, we're going to begin the fill, right? And then we're going to write another loop. This is a rectangle, so our loop's actually just going to have 2. Even though rectangles have 4 sides, we really can only do a loop that runs twice because because that's all the times it repeats. Don't forget your colon like I did last time. And we're going to go, he's going to turn 90 degrees. So left 90 degrees. And then he's going to go forward. We'll make him 100 long. And then he's going to go left again 90 degrees. And then he's going to go forward 50. And that'll create a rectangle, because the rectangle will be 100 pixels wide and 50 pixels long, or vice versa. So now that would be, oh, and I forgot to end the fill. End fill, like that. So there we go. And then down here, here's our rectangle. Yep. So, and because I didn't type end fill, it didn't end fill, but it will do that. So now I'm going to draw an octagon underneath the square. So once again, we have the list of in-between commands that I copied from above. They're still, I'll still just paste them if you want to pause this and do them. So he's going to move up, but this time we are going to rotate him. He's going to go right. Yep, right 90 degrees, and then he's going to go forward 175. The pen's going to go down, and this time we're just going to keep him black, turn him back to black, and then we're going to draw. You can draw a shape of your choosing, but and then oh no, we have the pen's down. We're good. So now it could be an object of your choosing. And so just look up online or do the math yourself, obviously. It's however many, whatever the angles are of whatever polygon that you want to draw. I think I'm going to do an octagon, and so that would be, that'd be 45 degrees angle. For some reason earlier I miscounted it, didn't I? I said it was a decagon, but nope, 45 degrees. So an octagon's easy because it's 45 degrees. So once again, we're going to create a loop, and the loop's going to be however many sides are in our polygon. So if I'm doing an octagon, it's going to be 8 sides. And, oh, by the way, don't forget to begin the fill and end the fill. So there we go. For X in range 0 to 8, Pete is going to go forward. Oh, we'll say 50. And he's going to turn left 45 degrees. And that's what he's going to do. And then Pete's going to end fill. And there we go. That's going to draw our 4 shapes unless I made a mistake, which is always possible. So there we go. There's our square, our like ridiculously slow and annoying circle. But he'll speed up once he's done. And believe it or not, that's how video game programming works, is all these vectors, and just telling them what to draw and what to fill in and how to begin. And there's our octagon right down there. Black octagon. So those are our 4 shapes, 48 lines of code, but we drew some cool shapes, and a lot of that is just repeat, right? And so I'm going to start at the top and just kind of spend 2 seconds in each sort of section, just so you can pause, and if it's not working for you, you can go back and check. So that's line 1 through 11. Pause it if you need it. There's lines 12 through 22. That would be our circle. And then there's lines 24 through 34, which would be our rectangle. And then there's lines 38 through the end, which would be our octagon. So there you go. Have any questions, let me know. It is kind of fun once you understand how to do it. You can find all kinds of fun turtle things online. You can draw stars, kaleidoscopes, all kinds of things, all kinds of fun things there. So have fun with it. Thanks.